It's Saturday, April 19th here in Korea. Thanks for tuning in to our special newscast on the ferry sinking disaster live from Seoul. I'm Ju.
Good to have you with us. I'm Mark Broom. Now, more disappointment, anger and sorrow for the families of the missing passengers as we are now halfway through another day with no new survivors found.
More than 72 hours have now passed since search and rescue operations began, and hopes are dimming. But families and rescuers are clinging on to the hope that the ferry, now completely submerged, may contain pockets of air that could sustain the missing.
As of now, 29 passengers have officially been confirmed dead and 273 remain missing out of the 476 passengers and crew. For the latest on the ferry sinking and other updates, we have our Connie Lee standing by in the newsroom.
Now, Connie, we heard news this morning that divers had gotten a glimpse of the inside of the hull and spotted bodies in the cabin for the first time since rescue operations began on Wednesday. What's the latest?
Well, Jinju, just a couple of hours ago, officials said divers believe that they have spotted 3 bodies through the window inside the 4th floor of the sunken ferry, or the place where the passenger cabins are. Now, divers were not actually able to get inside the ship early this morning because they couldn't break through the windows. But officials say they are currently working on doing that right now. Jinju, I also have to tell you, we have new reports right now coming from Chindo Island, or where most of the victims' families are waiting to hear any new word, that officials there have just begun taking DNA samples of the relatives of the victims from the sunken ferry. Now, the DNA samples will help officials identify the bodies later this week. Now, on to more news from this Saturday morning. The captain of the ship has been arrested early today. The captain and 2 other crew members are actually in custody right now and have been formally charged. The 68-year-old Lee Jun-suk is charged with 5 counts. Now, these include charges of negligence and a violation of a ship crew law, which requires crew to remain on the ship until all passengers escape. Now, you can see the cabin's face here after leaving a court hearing early this morning. This video, but he spoke to reporters here, and he says that he told people to evacuate the capsized vessel. Now, if you can hear the captain speaking, let's go to the soundbite.
퇴선 명령 내리셨어요?
네.
승객들한테도 내리셨어요?
네. 불릴 때 든 게 아니라 그 항로 지시하고 잠시 침실에 볼일에서 잠시 갔다 오는 사이에 그렇게 된 겁니다.
And there you hear it. Here the captain is basically saying it wasn't his fault that the ship had tipped over. And earlier he clearly said yes, he did tell passengers to evacuate. But as we've continually heard from surviving passengers, they say they never heard those orders. Mark and Shinju.
Yeah, we must remember that the captain, any captain in fact, is completely responsible for the ship, for the safety of the passengers and the actions of his crew. And if it's proven, in fact, that he abandoned the passengers, that is utterly reprehensible.
Right. It wasn't just the captain facing the law. There were 2 more crew members charged and arrested. Any details about them?
Well, Jinju, what we know right now is that one of them is a 25-year-old third mate with the surname Park. Now, she was reportedly at the helm of the ferry when it sank. Now, another crew member in custody right now is a 55-year-old man of the surname Cho. Now, all of these crew members were apparently the first ones to escape the sinking ferry.
Now, Connie, we've heard countless stories and we've seen lots of mobile videos taken by surviving passengers that showed people staying inside this sinking ship.
Yes, actually, and there's new video, Mark, that came out today that shows passengers staying put inside their cabins, even though the ship was clearly severely listing. Now, you see here in this amateur video, passengers passing out life vests, and some of them already wearing them. Now, passengers say they thought about evacuating the ship earlier, but because the announcement from the ship's crew told them to stay put, that's exactly what they did. Now, that's all I have for you right now from the newsroom. I'll be back later for more updates.
Thank you, Connie, for that. Now, as you heard, search and rescue divers will try to break into the vessel to retrieve the bodies they spotted earlier this morning. Now, the rescuers are racing against the clock with the possibility of rougher weather conditions to come during the afternoon. Our Yoo joins us live from the Pyeongmokhang Harbor. What's the latest over there?
Hi, Jinju. There's actually been quite a bit of commotion down here just about an hour ago. Families and parents, especially of the victims, have been screaming and yelling at the Coast Guard here. Apparently, they have found out that the vessel has turned over completely, and now it's not standing sideways, but it is turned over completely, and the windows are facing downwards. That means that the rescue situation has been dramatic.
Okay, well, we seem to have lost Leanne there. We'll try and get her back before the end of the broadcast. Now, family members of those on board the Sewol-ho ferry have been camped out at the Jindo Indoor Auditorium.
Information on rescue efforts have been readily available, but the mood is filled with sorrow, frustration, and anger. Kwon So-ah is on the phone live from the auditorium. What's the situation there like?
Guys, as time passes by, it's getting harder for the families here to accept the fact that hope is diminishing. They spent another restless night as they are awaiting even a small morsel of information about their loved ones. Some family members were attempting to get some rest in the auditorium, in the halls, some in their cars. But at this hour, most of them are awake, closely watching rescue operations unfold on a screen provided to them, as well as the news. Now, at 10 a.m., officials from the crisis center here in Jindogun County gave a briefing at the auditorium on the latest search and rescue developments. They said that divers are continuously working on entering the cabinet.
So it must be really difficult for these families just to wait, and we hear that many of them have collapsed from the deep despair they are feeling. Families have been residing in the indoor auditorium or Pengmok Hang Harbour for around 3 days now. How are they being looked after?
Well, lots of helping hands have been offered so far. On the day of the accident, around 2,000 volunteer workers arrived in Jindogun County to provide the families with necessary supplies. Now, apart from food, water, medicine, and blankets, hot packs, and other daily equipment, therapists are there to give the families comfort. And ordinary people have also reached out a helping hand in the form of utensils, but also money. However, welfare services say instead of money, coming over to the site would be of more help.
All right, so thank you for that report. Do keep us updated on the situation there. Now, let's go over to our UDN once again. As you heard, that search and rescue divers will try to break into the vessel to retrieve the bodies they spotted earlier this morning. And the rescuers are racing against the clock with the possibility of rough weather conditions to come during the afternoon. Now, Deanne, what's the situation like over there?
Jinju, there's actually been quite a commotion down here. About an hour ago, families of the victims were screaming and yelling at the Coast Guard here. Apparently, they have found out that the vessel has completely turned over. It's no longer standing on its side anymore, and that means the windows are also facing downwards. That means the situation for the rescue operations have worsened dramatically. And apparently, the families here have found out about this by reading text messages that were between the Coast Guard. None of these details have been confirmed yet, but as soon as I'm able to confirm them, I find out more about the situation here, I will let you know in our later newscast. But earlier, as Connie mentioned, around 5:50 a.m. local time, divers have gone underwater and have been trying to retrieve the bodies that have been spotted in the 4th floor of the vessel. They have failed to do so. They have failed to break the windows down. And also the Coast Guard here are planning on throwing a wire net to the vicinity of the site so that no bodies will drift away from the current. And I'm not sure if you can hear the sound right now. That is the sound of the helicopter, which is being also dispatched to the site of the accident. Now, put aside the three bodies that were found this morning, the official death toll stands at 29, the latest being the 60 to 70-year-old female victim found yesterday around midnight. Shinju?
Yeah, Leanne, so we can hear the helicopter, like you say, their rescue operations clearly ongoing right now, regardless of the weather or the currents. How have the rescue operations been going through the night? Were the rescue team actually able to get deeper into the vessel?
Mark, rescue operations have continued throughout the night and today morning as well. During the night, mid-sized aircraft were sent to the site of the accident where they launched flare bombs to light up the night. And during the morning, as you can hear right now, the helicopters have been flying all around the port area. The divers have also gone down under to trying to get to the third floor of the ferry as well. And there have been conflicting reports all throughout yesterday and yesterday night as to what exactly the divers were able to do in the ferry. And just to clarify for our viewers, they have been able to get into the ferry, but just to the entrance of the third floor, not to any of the cabins there. Also, yesterday, 3 lift bags have been attached to the vessel to keep it afloat and to prevent it from sinking further, and 23 more will be attached today and in the days to come. There's also been an oil spill from the Seoul ferry. An oil band about of 1 kilometer in diameter is surrounding the accident area, and the Coast Guard here has to now deal with 2 things, of course, containing the oil spill and continuing the search and rescue operation. Guys?
Well, we do hope that the divers will succeed in getting into that vessels today. Now, thank you, Liam, for that report. That was our UDN reporting live from Pyeongmookgang Harbor, the focal point of the search and rescue operations.
Now, we are hearing that once the bodies are recovered, or better yet, if survivors are found, they'll be brought to the Mokpo Hanguk Hospital, which is located in Korea's southern Jeollanam-do province. We have our reporter standing by there, Ji Myung-gil. He's at the hospital. Myung-gil, fill us in.
Yes, Mark, the Mokpo Hospital here has everything prepared to receive bodies from the sunken Seoul ferry. Currently, there are 11 survivors that are undergoing treatment. And among the 11 survivors, some are suffering from spinal injuries, while some are suffering from minor bruises. And also, the hospital is providing psychiatric therapies. And this morning, an identified 22-year-old female body was transferred to the Inha University Hospital located in Incheon. She was the one that gave up her life vest to a student. Families of the missing here are anxiously waiting for news of their loved ones. Hope has been in the air since Friday as divers were able to reach inside the sunken ferry. Once the bodies are examined, they will be sent to Korea University Ansan Hospital located south of Seoul.
With each passing second, minute, and hour, hopes for finding survivors are diminishing. However, I'm sure the hospital is on standby for any arrival of rescue passengers.
Yes, the hospital is on constant standby, and the hospital has prepared 50 beds for any survivors that might come later on. And also there are 20 doctors and nurses that are undergoing shifts day and night. Several funeral rooms have been prepared for families that may have lost their loved ones through this tragic accident. The hospital has also set up a task force team to manage and identifying the bodies as quickly as possible.
And I understand that the families of the missing are there at the Mokpo Hospital, hoping, of course, to get to see their loved ones alive. Are they preparing themselves for the worst, or do they still believe good news may be on the way?
Well, I think some families are preparing for the worst and some are not. But as you can all imagine, the families are expressing deep regrets over the whole situation. And also, they have been waiting for days, minutes, and every hour for their loved ones to come back. There is also a great sense of pain and sorrow within the waiting rooms of the hospitals. And also, as I've been here until this morning, I've never felt so much sadness in this one place. Although rescue efforts have continued throughout the night, it seems not much progress has been made. We'll keep you updated for any rescue passengers or recovered bodies arriving here at the Mokpo Hanguk Hospital. Back to you.
Well, thank you, Myung-gil. As Myung-gil just told us, different hospitals in Ansan, Gyeonggi-do province are prepared to receive the bodies recovered.
Shin Se-min joins us on the line from the Korea University Ansan Hospital. Se-min, can you tell us what you are seeing down there?
Yes, as the day progresses, not only family members, relatives, and friends, and I don't know if you were able to see behind me, the priests and even nuns are visiting to pay the tribute to the ones that have lost their lives. And a lot of mourners overnight spent their night here at this Korea University Ansan Hospital, trying to stay besides them before they leave. A total of 22 bodies have arrived in Ansan, and with 6 here at Korea University Ansan Hospital. And the mood here is one of unimaginable sorrow. The first coffin has been burned out at a nearby funeral hall, and it is that of a teacher who lost her life after helping students evacuate the now sunken ferry. At around 4 a.m., some 8 hours ago, the body of the vice principal of Tanwon High School who have committed suicide arrived at a nearby Cheil funeral here in Ansan, along with another body that arrived earlier of a female high school student in Ansan after being identified in Mokpo. And as you have mentioned, the deceased identified from Mokpo Hanguk Hospital are being transported to different locations, and so many local hospitals and funeral halls are on full standby as additional bodies were found at the accident scene and are expected to arrive once identified.
The entire nation is mourning, and our condolences go out to the families and friends who've lost their loved ones. But what about the survivors who have been admitted and are being treated there? Korea University Ansan Hospital has the most number of patients from the disaster.
Yes, a total of 76 students are being here or have been admitted at the hospital here, and a lot of officials here at this hospital have said that the media should stay away, should refrain from patients being from the patients, as many suffer from post-traumatic stress disorders. And from the briefing that just ended a couple minutes ago, says that the doctor here at this hospital says that they're holding a one-on-one conversation with the individual and patients, constantly checking up on their mental status. It's because nearly 80% of the treated patients here are suffering from serious levels of stress, while more than half are severely depressed. Doctors at this hospital also say that patients will need to be treated for at least 4 weeks, and as long as a year, depending on their conditions. So with that, I will bring you more updated information later today. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Semin. We can't even imagine what they're going through there at the hospital, the survivors and also the families of the missing and confirmed dead. Okay, we wish them all the best, and you too, Semin. The cause of the accident is yet to be determined, and why the ship had suddenly changed direction, which might have caused its cargo and loaded vehicles and containers to suddenly shift, eventually leading to the vessel losing its balance and then tilting and ultimately capsizing.
Right, but the tracking record of the critical minutes where the ship sailed in an abnormal manner is missing, our Song Ji-san reports.
All ships are tracked from departure to arrival with a device that emits a signal every 6 seconds. It's called the Automatic Identification System, or AIS, and is used for identifying and locating vessels. On the Sewol ferry, the system was working properly until 8:48 a.m., but by 8:52, the ship had turned 100 degrees and had sailed 400 meters. But the AIS was off for that 4 minutes, meaning the ship was damaged to a significant level that the electricity went off or the equipment stopped working. From that point, the ferry drifted north for over an hour until it came to a stop and eventually capsized. There's confusion about why the ship needed to change direction at the point it did.
The location is a turning point where the ship needs to start changing direction. We are looking into whether it was a normal change of direction or whether it changed direction due to an unusual circumstance.
But an official at the Oceans Ministry said there was no critical need to change direction, and the ship could have sailed on its regular route at that point. It's all down to the captain and the third navigator who was in charge of steering at the time to find out what really happened during those 4 minutes when the automatic tracking system stopped working. 송지선, Arirang News.
The intense anger of families of the missing passengers is being stoked by the achingly slow progress of the rescue operation. They're blaming the government for not doing enough.
Yes, they are, but it seems that there aren't many options at this point, as experts say some of the suggestions being raised by the general public would make things worse than they already are. Park Ji-won reports.
Fast currents, adverse weather conditions, including rain and strong gusts of wind. Rescue divers' attempts to enter into the sunken ferry have failed repeatedly since the search and rescue operations began 3 days ago. Rescue teams have opted to search for survivors, with divers using underwater paths to get into the vessel. Some have raised questions whether drilling a hole directly into the vessel to pull out any possible survivors might have been a better option. But experts say there was not a viable option. They say if there are any survivors inside the now sunken Seoul ferry, they're using air pockets to stay alive. If a hole had been drilled from the outside, it would have caused water to rush in, collapsing those air pockets. They also point out that welding necessary to make the hole would have generated carbon monoxide within the ship, which could have been fatal as well.
Carbon monoxide poisoning could have caused a bigger accident. It's extremely rare to execute rescue operations by drilling a hole into a ship.
To help search divers in the area, some have proposed setting up large commercial ships, such as oil tankers, nearby to block rapid tidal currents. But experts say this is also not an option because the direction of tides change 4 times a day, meaning deploying just 1 or 2 wouldn't help.
At least 3 ships need to be deployed to safely surround the sunken ship to prevent currents, which would take at least 6 months.
Then what about lifting the ship by cranes? Refloating the ship, experts say, will take at least a few weeks, which would be far too late for any survivors if there are any on board. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Now, there are volunteers who made their way to the accident site as soon as they got news of the disaster, and among them were private rescue divers.
They've been putting themselves in harm's way for the sake of the 273 people who remain missing and are hopefully still alive. Kim Min-ji reports.
Inside this vessel, rescue divers are setting up plans to enter rough waters at the scene of the accident in search of survivors. These divers are part of a private rescue team that has volunteered their time to help out.
The conditions are much more favorable compared to yesterday. There won't be any major difficulties in diving today.
These private rescue divers are experienced in such matters, being involved in operations like the Korean warship Cheonan crisis 4 years ago. Although they haven't found any survivors on the Seoul ferry yet, they haven't given up hope.
We could recover bodies after air was pumped into the vessel. They were visible to us.
However, the harsh conditions at sea are hampering their attempts.
If I stretch my hand out, I can barely see my fingertips. If we're over 7 meters underwater, we can't see anything ahead of us. It's completely dark.
With hope diminishing in the nation of finding any survivors, these private rescue teams are doing what they can to encourage the victims' families, to show them that everything that can be done is being done to save their loved ones. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
And those are the latest updates we have on the ferry sinking at this hour. Stay tuned to Arirang as we will continue to bring the latest on the search and rescue efforts.
Our next special newscast will be at 2 p.m. Korea time with new developments on the tragic disaster. Our prayers are with the families of the missing and the deceased. Thank you for watching.